Hey everybody, it's Derek here. We're going to take a look at the news from the 6th through the 12th of December 2021. Okay, so probably biggest event at least this week was the Game Awards, or the Jeff Awards, or the Game Awards with an asterisk beside it. Before we get into the hundreds of fucking trailers, because it was like a 3.5 hour show, there were so many fucking things. And like hardly any awards. Weird that. Anyway, Jeff came out on stage to kind of address the Activision, Ubisoft, Riot Games, Quantic Dream, BioWare, Sony, Microsoft. I'm sure I'm missing a few because there have been so many of them. But the whole, the games industry is kind of shit thing. But he was disappointingly vague and really didn't, use the platform to make any real impact on the whole thing. Game Awards host Jeff Keighley began tonight's award show with a brief statement condemning industry abuse, very brief, from companies and from online communities. I mean, yeah, online communities are shit too, but they're not really the issue right now. We can't ignore the headlines that are out there. Game creators need to be supported by the companies that employ them. So let me just say, before we go to any new, we should not have any abuse. Basically, he didn't name anybody, is the problem. And anybody who would have come from this outside the industry or who don't keep up to date on game news, who don't watch this, I guess, video series thing, or, just don't keep up to date with industry news. They're only paying attention to the games that come out themselves, or they're just outside the industry entirely and they're just looking in. This is like a big showcase for what's coming up for video games. It's not really a celebration of the developers or like awarding people for doing great work, because the awards themselves are a pretense for advertisement for 3.5 hours of video, or as a great hard drive article pointed out, was that ad blocker changes the Game Awards into 7 minutes or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I forget the exact headline. It was much funnier, but it was basically using an ad block, and the whole awards show would only be 7 minutes long. Anyway, it's just disappointing because this is a huge platform where Jeff Doritos Pope himself could have said something meaningful about the whole thing, and he was incredibly vague. It was full of platitudes, and then throwing in players on top of that. It's not great. It's not a good look. Plus, he then segued directly into a trailer for Star Wars Eclipse, which is by Quantic Dream, who are very much one of these employee or companies that are not supporting their developers. They have also been accused of all of that shit: harassment, predatory practices, pay disparity, all that stuff. So yeah, that wasn't a good look. Anyway, rather than tell you who won the awards, because it's meaningless, I don't think anyone would take who won the Game Awards all that interesting. They don't exactly have the what's the word? I can't think of the word. They don't exactly have the prestige, I suppose, of something like winning, I don't know, an Oscar or BAFTA or something like that. But anyway, Game of the Year was It Takes Two. Whatever, it's a good game, sure, why not? Anyway, what the Game Awards are really for are the game ads. So here's a bunch of trailers. So I have done my best to categorize some of these trailers. I am not going to show you every single trailer that was shown, because it was 3.5 hours long and it was almost all trailers, so this video would be practically 3.5 hours long, so that's not happening. I'm basically just going to show you the trailers that I found interesting and would be interested in playing myself, personally. I'm sure there are other games that were announced that you would be interested in playing, but if that's the case, probably just go look up the Game Awards VOD and, skip through all the shit parts, which is most of the video. Anyway, Arc Raiders, which is by Embark, who are former DICE developers, so they are offshoot of the Battlefront peeps, have made their own game. This, I believe, is their debut title. Arc Raiders looks like, if if you're familiar with Earth Defense Force games, the EDF games, EDF, which is a humans versus alien invasion, and for some strange reason they're always enormous insects, but it's like huge waves of enemies that are backed up by like monstrous, like not monstrous isn't necessarily the word, but like towering huge creatures that you need to take down. And Arc Raiders is kind of like that, but they gave it a budget, and instead of insects, it's robots. So I think we can skip ahead a little bit into a bit of gameplay. So it's got this kind of thing. It's PvE. So it'll be a bunch of you friends, randos or whatever, taking on drones for the most part. Either taking them out directly or trying to hide from them. There's some like somewhat stealth gameplay here. They're doing a very bad job of it. There's got a bit of like Terminator to it. Like, you know, the flash forwards, I guess, where they show the future where Skynet has won. It's that kind of look to it, but I guess the big set pieces are when these large robots, sure, descend from the moon or wherever they're coming from, and you know, you'll have to work together with a bunch of players to take them down, because they're like hardy creatures dropping bombs and mortars and firing rockets and shit at you. But you can take them down, you know, there's like taking out their legs and, you know, pulling them down with rope harnesses, a bit like Star Wars there, and, you know, bombing them from the top and that kind of thing. Very EDF. EDF would have giant spiders. I would same idea, take out their legs or trip them up or something like that. So it's got that going for it. It's interesting. I would be interested to play it if it wasn't entirely online. If it was more of an EDF single player kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. With like AI partners or whatever, I'd be all for that. It's just I can very rarely get a group of people together to play something regularly. One off, sure, but get them to like go through like an entire campaign or something like that. Never happens. Anyway, that was Arc Raiders. Then kind of thrown in like right at the start of the I believe this was in the pre-show, which is Have a Nice Death, which is a roguelike side-scrolling thing that I love, and I am sure like a lot of people don't, but I really like these kind of games. Even if the roguelike stuff isn't always something I enjoy, I prefer the kind of search action Metroidvania type things. But so this is the idea here is you play Death himself, the Grim Reaper, who is head CEO of Death Incorporated. And the issue is he has a lot of work to do because his subordinates are killing people all the time. And they're not keeping a status quo or something like that, where, you know, it's not your job to just kill absolutely everybody. You need to keep some people alive. So the idea here is he needs to reinforce this idea that you're not supposed to kill everybody. And he's going to do that by killing everybody. No, he's going to do that by basically taking on the rogue entities in the company who are, I don't know, maximizing profits or something like that because they're just killing everybody. Anyway, it looks fun. It looks kind of, I don't know, cheerful. Even though it's all about death and the Grim Reaper, I don't really know how to put it. Like cartoonish kind of fun. This is the only way I could kind of describe it. It looks kind of quick and the combat looks really nice. I saw a lot of dashing and air dashing and stuff in there. So yeah, I think anyone who has seen the games that I play on this would agree that that's my bag. And then a kind of surprising sequel announcement is Warhammer Space Marine 2. Space Marine 1 was okay. I know there's some people who really, really like it, and other people are like, it's alright, it's an okay shooter or whatever. Anyway, this is a sequel to it from like 10 years, maybe? 10 years later. The vast majority of this is CG, so I'm going to skip through it. It's a pretty cool CG trailer, but it doesn't really tell you much about the game. I'm mostly going to skip to like the last couple of seconds where there's a tiny amount of gameplay. It's like right after the title card. There's a very, very, very small amount of gameplay where you might get an idea of what it's like. It's a bit of a over-the-shoulder brawler slash shooter kind of thing. The original Space Marine is a bit of fun, but it's also a bit meh in a lot of places. I know a lot of Warhammer fans on Twitter were like, why the Ultramarines again? the blue guys who are like, I don't know, like the default Space Marines, basically. There's like far more interesting factions they could have done. But I don't know. I don't know the Warhammer universe well enough to say anything about that. So those 3 trailers were for games that had not been announced before and also contained gameplay. Even if Space Marine had like the tiniest amount of gameplay. So the rest of these trailers, this is the next batch of trailers, if you like, are games that have been announced before but now have gameplay, or didn't have gameplay previously, or something like that. So this is a fairly lengthy trailer for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, focusing primarily on the Flash. So this is Captain Boomerang giving a monologue to the camera about how the Flash sucks, and then gets his ass kicked by the Flash afterwards. There, the Flash is very briefly in camera there for a second. So the general gist of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is the Justice League have been brainwashed by Brainiac, and Amanda Waller has sent the Suicide Squad to take them out, because they are a threat to the entire planet, I imagine. If Superman, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, the Flash, all of them have suddenly gone rogue, that's probably an issue. I have not mentioned Batman, and that's because this takes place in the Arkham universe, and depending on when in the Arkham universe this takes place, Batman may or may not be around. So this trailer kind of mixes and matches a bit of gameplay, which is why I left it in. It kind of shows off the 4 playable characters and how they play. So you've got Deadshot, who's more of a ranged jetpack shooty guy. King Shark, who is a type of brawler, heavy melee sort of deal, but he does also have a Gatling gun. You've got Captain Boomerang, who is a very hit and run kind of thing, teleports about the place. He's got a lot of traversal mechanics. I think there is a bit... Have we seen it already? Possibly. There's a bit where he shows off, or where the trailer shows off Captain Boomerang just kind of milling about the environment. He's probably the character I'd want to play as most. And then Harley Quinn, I think she's probably a bit of an all-rounder kind of character. Like this bit. Like, that's great. Like, I actually do want to play as Captain Boomerang. I would just rather we weren't fighting the Justice League, because I kind of want to play as the Justice League more. But I get why they did it, because these 4 characters can be kind of vulnerable. Like, you know, you are a little bit worried about them going up against the Justice League or whoever. You wouldn't necessarily be worried about Superman going up against anybody, because he's fucking immortal, basically. That's kind of the idea, I guess. This is one way around it. I don't want to beat up the heroes, I guess. I'm just kind of done with doom and gloom and everything you like sucks. I don't really want that in my life anymore. I want to be the heroic good guy kind of thing. I don't know. Anyway, I'll probably play it anyway. Then fairly lengthy gameplay. Now I say gameplay, but citation is needed on this, because how much of this trailer is actually you pressing buttons, and how much of it is just entirely scripted animation. I'm going to skip ahead, because the very start of this is mostly... It's allegedly rendered in-game, and I do believe it, because the original Hellblade is a very high-fidelity game, even though it has a questionable amount of actual gameplay in it. But yes, I can believe that you are currently holding up on your controller. That's probably it. That's kind of all you're doing right now. There's a bit where they have a giant coming across from Scandinavian countries or something. I believe Senua is a Pict, which would make her Northern England, potentially Scotland. Actually, probably Scottish, now that I think about it. Anyway, that whole area. So you've got giants possibly coming across from Norway or Finland, etc. Norse mythology kind of thing. And their job here is that they're going to try to kill it. And this giant is quite big. That's why it's called a giant, I suppose. But yeah, like this is pitched as a gameplay reveal. This isn't gameplay. You know, this is a pre-scripted scene. Sure, it could be rendered in game. Sure, I'd go with that. I don't imagine it's a pre-rendered cutscene. Like, I imagine you do have control Actually, no, you wouldn't have control of the character. But like, at what point are you actually pressing buttons? Like, that's when it's gameplay. If you're not pressing buttons, it's not gameplay. Like, maybe you're waiting. Like, maybe you have control here to actually throw the spear at some point. But who knows? Like, it's difficult to tell. And then the rest of the trailer is pretty cool. Like, they didn't kill the giant, basically, and you are running from a giant on fire who is crawling through the tunnel and turning around every now and then to throw a spear at him and keep the fire going and so on. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's quite lengthy, but it's pretty cool. But the idea that this is gameplay is a bit like, yes, there's probably a bit where you're holding up for a while, and yes, there's probably a bit where you're having to target the creature, and it's quite pretty and so on, but it's not exactly dynamic or what have you. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it exactly. Calling it a gameplay reveal when, yeah, technically, sure, it is, I guess. I don't know. Then we had another look at a game I don't know how to pronounce. Tchia? No idea. Anyway, this is a game we saw at a Sony State of Play a while ago. I think it was a State of Play. Anyway, this is a kind of Breath of the Wild-y type game, inspired by New Caledonia, or the kind of folklore around us. You play this character, who I assume is Tchia. I don't know. It hasn't exactly been confirmed that that's their name. It might be the name of the land or the island or whatever you're on. It's got a lot of like the exploratory stuff from Zelda. You've got literally cracks in walls blown up by bombs. You've got a hang glider. You know, there's a lot of Breath of the Wild and just Zelda in general going on here, and got sick flips in the air and that kind of thing. Character customization shows up here in a little bit, but the more interesting mechanic for the game is this, I don't know, spirit jumping animal possession kind of thing, where you can turn into parrots and then slingshot somebody and then take possession of this lantern and yeet yourself at the enemy. Like that small little loop there, where it was approach combat, as the bird, jump out, slingshot the guy, turn into the lantern, throw yourself at an enemy, turn back out, blow up the lantern, like that. That was good. I wasn't exactly fully on board for the game until I saw that. I'm just curious how much of the game will be that, and how much of it will be the small bits you saw there of just walking around the environment and talking to people and failing to play the ukulele and so on. Tunic, right. Tunic is The Legend of Zelda if you were a fox. If Link was a fox, basically. It is, like, unashamedly, unabashedly a Legend of Zelda game, but isometric instead. It looks really, really good. Everything I've seen about Tunic looks excellent. I really like just the art style they're going for. It's very, like, it has a bit of like the pixel graphic thing going on, but like voxelized instead. It really has that feeling to it. A big issue I have with it is that it's an Xbox exclusive, which means I can't play it. That's really annoying. I'm really hoping it ends up on PC soon enough after its release, or I don't know, they do some deal with Nintendo at least. I'm curious if Nintendo will be like, hold on a minute, this is Legend of Zelda, we can't put another game like that on. So this trailer, one, reminding you that Tunic is a thing, but also it now has a release date. It did not have a release date previously, so it's coming out in March, right before the end of the quarter. Evil West, which did get a trailer at the last Game Awards, I believe. If you might recall, it's the guy who has the branding iron knuckle duster thing. And I kind of dismissed it because it seemed like it was just going to be a shooter, edgy shooter kind of thing, but it's not. It's, well, I mean it is, but also it's kind of a brawler, which is really interesting. It's like a really close in on the camera, over the shoulder melee game. Like a lot of the actual gameplay in this trailer, and not just scenes, scripted scenes or whatever, is melee combat. Like, not a lot of shooter stuff. Like, you've got whatever flamethrower, but a lot of the shooting is almost mixed into the combat, which is really interesting. I'm actually kind of hyped for this game now. It is Focus Entertainment, or Focus Home Interactive as they used to be known. Their games are kind of jank. And I know they're not the developer, but they tend to publish games that are kind of jank, I guess is what I'm going for. Forspoken, again, has been seen a couple of times now. A Square Enix title that is kind of weird. It's like a isekai. Modern person gets shunted into weird fantasy land and is suddenly the chosen one kind of thing. It's got some interesting components to it. The gameplay, when they actually get to the gameplay. Okay, so like it looks quite fast. The main character has a lot of abilities at their disposal. A few that are new in this trailer, like the invisibility stuff, and some stuff we've seen before. She's got a kind of machine gun type thing. She can like zoom about on a hoverboard kind of thing we've seen a few times before as well. Like, the traversal mechanics have been shown off before. Actual combat hadn't really been, so we're seeing a lot of different stuff here. It looks like she's got maybe some elemental abilities, so she can swap between ice and fire, or maybe something like that. And then the trailer ends with her just getting absolutely obliterated by that, which is pretty funny. Again, Forspoken didn't have a release date before. It does now, and it might be exclusive to PlayStation. I think it is. I'm not sure. But PlayStation have been moving things off to PC. So you might see that happen. That's entirely up to Square Enix, though, I suppose. So, A Plague Tale Requiem had been shown off at something. I don't think it was the Game Awards. Might have been Gamescom. I forget. This is a follow-up to A Plague Tale Innocence. You're returning to play as Amicia and Hugo de Rune after some time after the events of the first game. If you want to know more about the first game, I did a Let's Play of it recently enough. Plague Tale Innocence. Check it out. Commentary and no commentary if you're sick of my voice. You can also do that. But for whatever reason, the rats are back. They shouldn't be. We fixed this. This is what's happening here. Rats are back. Whole place is being decimated, something like that. It seems that they've left Europe, maybe? They've at least left France, by the looks of things. Like, there were some kind of tropical plants there for a while, so maybe they have gone across the Atlantic. Dunno, haven't been told yet exactly, but for whatever reason, rats are back, and we don't really know why. I'm sure somebody can recognize the livery of some of the soldiers and could tell me where in the world they actually are. Maybe they're a mix of two. Maybe you spend some time still in France and move to different countries or something, because there's like a ship. And I'm kind of curious about this. So a bit spoilers for the original game. And if you haven't watched the Let's Play and so on, so give me a minute. I think this is the pedo priest at the end, and that he didn't die, and they're using his body or something, and he's the source of the new rat infestation. That's what I think. I don't know. I have nothing to base this on other than I'm trying to think why the rats will be back, and also the white here kind of makes me think of the white rats, or the hairless rats rather, from the end of Plague Tale Innocence, which the enemy pedo priest had control over, and you did not. Okay, spoiler over. And continuing on with things that I have Let's Played or I'm currently Let's Playing, Alan Wake 2 was announced. This has been, it's kind of a game that's sort of been, it's not quite at the level of something like the Final Fantasy VII Remake or like a Half-Life 3 kind of thing, but it had always been a kind of thing like, can we have a sequel, please? We're begging for it. Anytime now when you're ready, Remedy. So yeah, they finally dropped us. Alan Wake 2 coming soon. Not very soon, I would imagine. 2023 is the year given at the end of this trailer. One interesting thing that Sam Lake, who was on hand at the Game Awards to kind of talk about it for a little bit, is that it's not really going to be a kind of action-y type shooter kind of thing like the original one was. It's going to be more of a survival horror type game. So that sounds really interesting, because I imagine they're going to give over the shooty stuff to Control instead, because it just does it so much better. It's so good, that game, just to use all your powers and shoot about the place. I imagine they'll just go, you know what, that's our shooter game, it's fine, it's doing really, really well, and it has a solid foundation for just extending it out to more sequels and so on. It's got a very rich lore foundation that they could branch out on, and maybe trying something new with Alan Wake, survival horror. Remedy haven't done that before, so that might be interesting to see. And we had an Elden Ring story trailer. It was actually the last thing. I think it was the last video that was shown. No, it wasn't. Sorry, no, it wasn't. Arc Raiders was the last video shown. Anyway, so this is a story trailer for Elden Ring. It kind of lays the groundwork for what you are going to find yourself in. And basically, it's kind of Dark Souls again, to be honest. It's basically all of the leaders of the realm all get killed or end up fighting amongst themselves, or for whatever reason, but basically the like governmental order of the land is thrown into turmoil. Leaders turn on each other. Demigods, as they're called here, start a big war, and then it all goes very Lord of the Rings. Like, you've got a clear fucking Rivendell looking setting here. That might as well be Elrond if he got really buff. And then fucking Minas Tirith looking shit here. So it goes very Lord of the Rings, with the demigods facing off against each other and their various armies and such fighting. And then there's a bit of a look here at this character on the left, who we had seen before. They're also part of the deluxe edition statue thing, facing off against Super Ganon, I guess, on The Legend of Zelda, the Conqueror of the Stars, and they fight each other and shenanigans. And that's about it. That's about it. I mean, it's like almost half the trailer left, but that's about it. Anyway, Elden Ring will be out soon. I don't know if you can check it out yourselves at some point. Slitterhead. Okay, so these next few trailers are basically new games. And Elden Ring actually shouldn't have been there. Elden Ring should have been at the end of this section, but whatever. These are basically new game. Why will you not go full screen? These are new games that don't have any gameplay. So these are like just announced, but there's no gameplay, so everything is CG, and yes, that is absolutely horrible. Slitterhead is from Boker Studios. Boker Studios are headed by the creative director for Silent Hill and the musical composer for Silent Hill. So there's some serious horror pedigree, I guess, backing it, but it actually appears to be more of an action-focused game. You've got this melee character in a hood who can control blood and turn blood into swords, fighting off against fucking praying mantis crab people or something, and it's called Slitterhead, which is it's choice. The actual music in this trailer is excellent. It's really good rock sound, and yeah, that's some pretty horrible shit right there. Anyway, so that's Slitterhead. Then we have a game called Steel Rising, which is again by Focus Entertainment, I think. Maybe not. Normally their logo would have popped up by now. Anyway, this is French Revolution, but also animatronics or robots, I suppose, if you prefer. You play whoever this dancing character is in the center, and it appears to be a heavy melee-focused brawler, potentially, type game. How actiony it is, and potentially Bloodborne-y instead, don't really know. From the character's movements and such, it feels like it's probably more action-focused and dynamic-focused than something like Bloodborne, which is a bit more... I mean, Bloodborne is an action game, but it is, like, I don't know, careful or, you know, kind of thing. It's not like, we're not talking like a Devil May Cry kind of thing, you know, they're different, even though they're both action games. Anyway, that's Steel Rising. We don't know a whole lot about it because we haven't seen any gameplay, but French Revolution, but robots. There you go. Sonic Frontiers. So this was a pretty interesting reveal. We've kind of known that Sonic Frontiers was the next Sonic game. We just weren't particularly clear how it was going to play. Was it going to be a side-scrolly thing? Was it going to be more along the adventure lines? Turns out, no, none of those. It's very different, actually. So I'm going to skip a little bit ahead here because this is showing off the game world for Sonic Frontiers, and you might be getting some Breath of the Wild vibes from this. So this appears to be Sonic of the Wild. Or when you eventually come across an enemy in this trailer, it might be a bit more Sonic of the Colossus. We'll have a look at that in a second, but it definitely has Breath of the Wild stuff going on. Big, open, expansive map that Sonic can just blast about the place in. This creature that kind of popped up there, and they'll give you a bit of a better look in a second here. Or if I could have just skipped out, whatever. Anyway, huge, big, towering creature, which is why I went with Sonic of the Colossus. There's also a voiceover in that trailer that is very, it's very like Zelda from Breath of the Wild, where she's kind of talking in kind of hushed tones and, you know, telling you to be careful and, you know, watch out for the big evil thing. Still going, I'm telling you, it was a fucking 3 hour thing. There were, in fact, some things I was interested in. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about Star Wars Eclipse. This trailer has been doing the rounds. It's trending on YouTube, Twitter, and all over the place. The trailer was legitimately interesting. There were a lot of Star Wars motifs, Jedi, Sith, aliens, space travel, all that kind of thing. Pretty moody. It's set in the High Republic, so it doesn't have really any ties to the films. The real problem is that it's Quantic Dream. And I didn't realize it was Quantic Dream until the end. It was like getting super hype, Star Wars, awesome. A game I didn't already know about Star Wars, and it isn't a fucking multiplayer thing. Or a Battle Royale piece of shit or something like that. It seems like, oh, it's going to be like a cool story narrative thing. And I was actually thinking Fallen Order 2 for a while. But when it appears to be not set in that timeline, I was like, okay, it's probably not Fallen Order 2. Or whatever they decide to call that game. Seems to be something else. And I was thinking, why is Yoda there in a timeline he shouldn't be? But I guess that's just an alien of the same type. Anyway, eventually we get to the point where, yes, that was cool. Because that was a Sith and Jedi potentially hanging out together. Which I appear to have skipped. Okay, I didn't get there. Anyway, we get to the end. And yeah, cool, this is all great. Yeah, nice, cool. New Star Wars game, awesome. And then Quantic Dream. So fuck that. Basically, Star Wars Resurgence will be a narrative thing, not unlike the Telltale games. It's from former Telltale developers who worked on like Walking Dead, Batman, Wolf Among Us, that kind of thing. But set in Star Trek universe. Again, not entirely clear when in the Star Trek universe it's set. The uniforms would suggest it is at least after Voyager, at the very least. I am not super great with Star Wars lore. Or Star Wars. Well, there you go. That's how bad I am with it. Star Trek lore, anyway, is what I actually meant. I don't know. It looks like... Does it look like the Deep Space Nine uniforms? Or maybe the Picard uniforms and not the Next Generation ones? Anyway, I don't know. Point is, it's going to be like a Telltale thing, but maybe with a bit of actual gameplay. Instead of just walking and walkie-talkie with people, you might have like scanning environments and shooting stuff and what have you. Dunno. Also, we don't really know when the game's going to come out or anything like that. And then, actually from Telltale Games, The Expanse, a Telltale series. So for those you may or may not be familiar, The Expanse is a TV show on Amazon Prime, I think. It was on Netflix for a while and now it's on Amazon Prime or something like that. Really cool dystopian future thing where Earth has expanded to both Earth, Mars, and the belt between Mars and Saturn, I think. And basically the people who live on the belt are kind of fucked over by everybody else, and Mars has gone hugely militaristic, and Earth is too busy smelling its own farts, kind of thing. So this will be by Telltale themselves. Important thing to know about Telltale right now is that it's not really Telltale anymore. They just Tech9, I think, bought the name, pretty much, because Telltale went bankrupt a while ago. So former devs went off and they've gone on to make Star Trek, and I guess they've brought on some new developers and kept the name for people who don't know that it's not the same developers anymore. And then very last thing, I've only added this in because I can't say definitively that I wouldn't play it, because I have absolutely no idea how the game would, like, what the game is going to be. So this is Wonder Woman from Monolith. No, not Monolith. That's a different company. No, Monolith. Okay, there are two there are two developers called Monolith. Okay, these ones made the Shadow of Mordor games. So this is their next game. They, I guess, have abandoned the Middle Earth stuff after Shadow of War did okay, but not great, I think. And now they're going, yeah, Wonder Woman instead. That's it. That's the trailer. We know nothing about it. It's probably a decade away or something. It's going to be really a long time before we actually see anything about this game. I just found it interesting that, or not interesting, I suppose, but person talking over in this trailer, and again, I don't do the audio because copyright and shit, audio stuff, so I don't bother. But the person talking over this is ostensibly Hippolyta, who's Wonder Woman's mother, and she actually calls her Wonder Woman, which she wouldn't, because I don't think she gives much of a shit about the outside world, and the outside world called her Wonder Woman. I'd imagine they just call her Princess Diana or whatever, but whatever. Big nerd moment. Anyway, so that was the Game Awards, or the Game Ads, or the Jeff Awards, whatever way you want to put it. It was pretty gross. The awards are definitely an absolute pretense for just showing a bunch of ads to people for an uncomfortable amount of time. I imagine it was pretty bad for everybody watching it anyway, but particularly bad if you are in Europe, because that is like midnight to 4 a.m. basically. That's an uncomfortable amount of time to watch advertisements and celebrity endorsements and a bunch of trailers for films and lots of shit, and very little Game Awards. There was a point in it where I'm gonna go back to Jeff instead of updates. There was a point in it where Jeff just fucking speed ran a bunch of Game Awards. He was just, here's the category, didn't even name the nominees, just had the nominees displayed beside him, didn't even name them, and then just said, yeah, this person won it, and then like straight into the next award, like right away. 3.5 hours for advertisements, and I think he did about 10 awards in like a minute. It's just gross. They don't give any time to the actual developers who they're ostensibly there to be celebrating. You know, they bring on a bunch of celebrities to talk about it, or they bring in, like, the only time you ever really see anything from the developers is maybe the creative director and maybe the composer. You know, that's about it. You don't really hear about best concept art guy, or best sound designed person, or you know, you only ever hear it as the game. It's the game with the best sound design, or the game with the best art direction. You know, not the best art director. That's how it's done in the Oscars or BAFTAs or whatever. They give it to the person or the team. It's not to the product. You know, they're not awarding the product with it. They're awarding the team behind it. And you get to see them. They get to talk about it. They get to thank whoever it is. You know, they can get... There were a bunch of... what do you call it? Like community moments that were shown in the Game Awards, where they did things like Future Class and Games for Impact, and you know, how games have helped people kind of thing. So it's like, and that was mostly around streamers and like content creators, again, not the developers of the game itself. You know, like, yes, you should be highlighting important voices in the streaming content creation community, but you really should be fucking highlighting the developers as well, if not more so. The Games for Impact thing was like the very first award. It was thrown in the pre-show of all things and was very perfunctory. Like, that's one of the most important awards, and should be in an actual awards show. It would be one of the more important things. Future class at a game awards would be, what do you think it would be? Do you think this is the future class? We're going to be talking about the next generation of something at the Game Awards for the video game industry. What do you think it would be? I think from the outside, you would think it would be the next, like, developmental team, like the next director or composer or, you know, something like that, but it's not. It's the next streamer. Like, that would be like the Oscars talking about the next fucking movie podcast guy. Like, I'm not saying the streaming isn't important to the industry. It is. It highlights a lot of games, gets the community involved. It is basically advertisement in a lot of ways and that kind of thing. It is a way for people to engage on a community level with the games they enjoy and so on. That is why movie podcasts are popular, or movie YouTube series, or D&D live plays, and all of that kind of thing. It's a community-driven thing, but they would not be there without the people who actually make them, the actual people themselves, not the Monolith developer name. You know, not just like, there's Monolith again, there's 3 of them. It's like not just saying I love Square Enix games, you know, or not saying I love Capcom games, or I love some other developer name. You know, could you actually say the name of the person? I love their art. You know, the art of Final Fantasy XIV. You know, whoever was the creative art lead for that. You know, the person who drew the character concept art for my favorite character. Would you know their name? And the answer is I don't. And that is bad. You could, you know, read through the credits, I suppose, and find them, but the point is they're not celebrated and highlighted in an industry event that is supposed to be about something like that. And I think that is not a great look, and it's something that really needs to change, because it allows the whole Activision shit that's happening right now, people to just be swept to the side because they're not known. You know, they don't have a big following for them to speak out about or anything like that. It's why people like Hideo Kojima, when he was let go from Konami, it was a big fucking stink, because he is known. He is a well-known creative director. You can say a Hideo Kojima game, not a Konami game. It's his game. You know, there are a handful of other developers you can say the same thing about, but it's very small. They're very much an exception. Whereas in film, TV, music, books, a lot of that stuff, you can track everything back to a person, you know, whoever did the work, the author of the book, the songwriter of your favorite song, not even the person performing it, the person who actually wrote the song, the guy who fucking does the sound mixing for a TV show. You know, you can find them, you can find their name, and they can get nominated for awards and can be awarded. The person themselves, not the product. Anyway, that is my rant. I will make a note in the fucking video that I did a big rant. If you want to, you can skip it. Okay, anyway. Okay, some new releases this week. First up, we have Wytchwood. Wytchwood is a bit of a kind of a Stardew Valley kind of thing. It's a bit of like a cozy cottagecore almost kind of thing, but you are a weird witch wizard kind of thing, living out in the woods and having fun with a bunch of other weirdos. More or less, but it's a bit of like a almost base buildery kind of, you know, look after your farm management sort of thing, where you also use the stuff you make to make potions and etc. It's a bit of like fun, but a bit kind of, you know, grim, because everything is horrible and sort of horrific, I guess. Anyway, it looks fun. What I've seen of it looks kind of cozy and whatever, even if it is all kind of terror based. Phoenix Point is a XCOM like thing, only I think you are fighting eldritch horrors rather than aliens, although you could potentially say that aliens are eldritch horrors from Beyond the Stars kind of thing. But anyway, it's XCOM from some of the original people on the original XCOM, as opposed to the more modern XCOM, I guess. But it's that kind of strategic you know, having an accuracy of somehow 85% being point blank beside somebody and then still missing. You know, it's that. Okay, but you know, more of that kind of thing. It has been out on PC for a while, and it is coming to consoles this week. Some consoles, not all consoles. Anyway, I mean, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, it did have a pre-launch or pre-release window for people who bought like a deluxe edition or something like that. They could play early, but it now has an official release this week. And I am going to very much skip through all of this trailer because I don't want to be spoiled. Because I haven't gotten anywhere close to getting to fucking Endwalker. But anyway, it's out, and if you were waiting for it, chances are you already knew that and didn't need me to tell you. And we've got Heavenly Bodies. So this is a nonsense physics game where you are out in space and you have control over your arms and occasionally your legs, and you need to fix problems on your space station in a kind of sort of like QWOP, you know, that Flash game that you may or may not know, where you had the keys K, W, O, and P, and they controlled your knees and feet independently, and you needed to run a race, more or less, and it was hilarious, and there's no way you could ever pull it off. This is along the same idea in that the physics are really tricky. Your arms and legs will almost certainly not do the things you want them to do, and you still need to sort of solve the problems. That's kind of what this is. It's shenanigans, basically, in space. And that's Heavenly Bodies. That was the new releases for this week. Updates that were not the Game Awards. So, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves collection arrives for PlayStation next year in January. So this is a collection of Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy. So that would be Nathan Drake's last title. And then the spin-off that was Chloe and other person whose name I forget, but it didn't have Nathan Drake. Let's put it that way. So that will be a collection of those two games that have been remastered rather, for PS5. If you already have the PS4 versions of the games, you can get a upgrade and so on. Uncharted 4's multiplayer mode will not be included, so it is not a complete preservation of the original game, which again is an issue, and we'll, you know, keep this in mind for a second because it's going to show up again in industry bullshit, and we'll have to talk about that in a second too. Okay, Sony shows the future of next-gen VR with prototype headset. Now, this is not PSVR 2. This is from Sony's R&D department, who are not necessarily associated with PlayStation because Sony do a lot of other things other than PlayStation. Namely, they do a lot of camera stuff. And their lenses are very, very good, and you'll find them in a lot of high-end cameras and phones. Like, you'll find that it's Sony's lenses and camera software. Maybe not the software, but camera hardware, definitely. You'll find a lot of those things, so anytime they do something with vision, more or less, you should really pay attention to Sony stuff. So they're showing off like 8K VR, so that's 4K for each eye. And then lots of low latency stuff that they've been working on. There's a video that I will kind of skim through fairly quickly because it's a technical video where they are kind of presenting a research paper. So it can get kind of dry. It is still very high level, so you don't need to know a ton about this kind of stuff. But some of it you might see some like acronyms and collections of letters that don't make sense, stuff like that, but whatever. So this is intro to these two people. They're R&D people at Sony's R&D department. They're showing off their prototype headset, which is, you know, it doesn't even have a head strap or anything like that. You just have two handlebars on the side of it. But they're basically showing off their low latency tech, and this guy is responsible for the actual density of the screens. So how many pixels can you fit in the screen at once? So this is their like high fidelity 4K for each eye, which ends up being 8K overall, and how they can have like really jam-packed pixels in the lens. And that is kind of one of the bigger issues and why people get kind of VR sickness. It's not really motion sickness. It's kind of I don't know, a weird disconnect between the brain, but it's basically if you can actually see the pixels themselves, if you can actually see the grid of dots on the screen right here on your eyes, it's really disorienting and it's very difficult to stop seeing. And obviously the change and the fix to that is to just put more dots on and have them be so dense that you can't see them. So that's kind of what they're going for here. 4K, eventually they'll probably come up with an 8K one and that kind of thing. They'll have that for both eyeballs, and then their low latency thing. They're still talking about the glass or the pixel density there for OLED 4K, which is tricky enough. Yeah, so this isn't gonna. I suppose again, it's still kind of high level, but it's showing off the latency issues that VR titles have, and that's basically if you're looking just directly at something, it's fine. The issue is when you turn your head quickly, and the screen has to update all the inter panels that you see, and the issue is that takes. It doesn't take a very long time. It's like 100 milliseconds, right? But that is long enough for you to see it. That manifests itself in video games as screen tearing, typically, where you see items. You can see like part of the screen has updated and part of the screen is not updated, right? So, and it kind of progressively works its way down. That's bad. You don't want to see that. It's kind of gross and definitely takes you out of it. And in VR, it's even worse. It's very, very bad. And it is, again, contributing to weird sickness stuff. So what they do here instead is, rather than trying to render the whole scene in one go every time you move, if they can sense that you are beginning a speedy trajectory to turn your head, they won't completely render the intermoving scene. They'll kind of warp it and kind of squish it a little bit, so that they have enough time that by the time your head gets to wherever it is you're going, it'll have rendered that completely perfectly-ish. That's the idea. Whether they pull it off or not is debatable. But they do show off a little bit here. You got at the top is with their latency compensation. You can actually see the screen kind of squish a little bit when they move. But I would argue that if you're moving quickly through a scene, it would be super noticeable. Whereas at the bottom, the one at the bottom, you can definitely see a kind of chug as it tries to render each image, I guess, in its entirety in full fidelity every time. So I'll let that run quickly so you can see it. You can also just go to this video yourself if you want. Is it playing? Yes. Can you see at the top that it kind of squishes the image a little bit, whereas the one at the bottom, it tries to render it all in one go, and you can see it has a weird kind of overlap thing. You can definitely, I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen. You can definitely see it on the hubcap well, the white, black, white. So look at that at the top and then look at it at the bottom. And you can see it's kind of smooth-ish at the top and it kind of wobbles at the bottom one. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what I'm seeing. Anyway, so while this won't necessarily be coming to PSVR 2, because it would be so fucking expensive to put 8K in a headset, maybe in the PSVR 3? But I think what you'll probably see this is in more like engineering spaces, maybe high entertainment stuff. Sony may release their own high-end VR device that isn't necessarily for PlayStation. Who knows? Who knows where they'll go with it. Anyway, it is now time to talk about the worst parts of video games. The video game industry. Right. Industry bullshit. Here we go. So I have an entire section dedicated just to Activision. Because I think this may have to be a thing we do just from now on. So here's the Activision part. If you want to skip ahead, look at the timestamps in the description. So this is going back to a story we looked at last week, which is when Activision just fired a bunch of Raven Software QA team, even though they had told them that they were going to be getting a pay raise, and a lot of the team had moved specifically to Wisconsin, where Raven Software are, or at least where the QA team are, moved across country without any help from Activision or from Raven themselves, on the pretense that they would be getting consistent work and that they would be needed on site, and then they fired them. So that's some fucking shit right there. So anyway, original story. Employees at Raven Software are walking out over a dispute following layoffs in the QA team. So that thing I was talking about. The people who were let go were fired without underperforming or committing a fireable offense, so kind of without cause. But because they're contractors, they can just basically say, we're not going to continue a contract for no good reason. And a good reason was not given. The majority of the remaining team at the Wisconsin studio are unsure about the status of their employment. The cuts come after a 5-week period of overtime and anticipated end-of-year crunch, so they were working them to death, planning on working them to death even more, had them move, upend their family, etc., move here, and then fired them. In response to the events of Friday, the Raven QA team and other members of Raven staff will be walking out with a singular demand. Every member of the QA team, including those terminated on Friday, must be offered full-time positions. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. The Raven QA department is essential to the day-to-day functioning of the studio as a whole. Terminating the contracts of high-performing testers in a time of consistent work and profit puts the health of the studio at risk. Additionally, these actions go directly against the positive culture that Raven has created over the years. The end goal of this walkout is to ensure the continued growth of Raven as a studio and to foster a positive community for everyone who works there. That is a statement from the remaining staff at Raven. Some of these team members who were let go had relocated to Wisconsin, which I said, without assistance, and were given reassurances from the studio that their workload would remain consistent. So, small issues with QA are that as you're coming up to the release of a game, your workload goes up. And then for a small time after the game is out, again, you'll still have a bit of a workload because they need to work through patches and bugs and that kind of thing. But eventually, when the game's been out long enough and it's stable enough, your work might drop off because you don't have as many bugs to work on. The developer itself might be just doing like preliminary stuff on their next title, so they're not even looking for people to look at bugs. So that's kind of the typical QA thing, in that they ramp up, they ramp down, ramp up, ramp down. As in, they hire a bunch of people and then they fire a bunch of people, and that is how QA goes. Unfortunately, that is the way it works. But they were reassured that their workload will remain consistent because with live service games, there's always something to test. So that should be a thing. But no, they got fired anyway. The employee group, A Better ABK, tweeted out their support. "We watched in shock today as our peers at Raven lost their employment in real time. With all our efforts to improve the lives of our contractors, this is a great wound for all of us, and an incredible break of the trust the company has asked us for. No, we stand with you. This has not only destroyed the morale of our workforce, but obliterated trust in the company that has been routinely asking us for patience in improving our lives." So this is going back to Activision going, we'll fix the things, don't quit, kind of thing. And then finishing up this article, just pointing out that this is not the first walkout that has happened at Activision. They say just last month, but it's only been like a couple of weeks, maybe. I suppose last month. Anyway, 150 Activision Blizzard staff walked out demanding the removal of Big Bobby Kotick, and before that, it was like a couple of thousand walked out. Yada yada. There was an update to this article, which was just to highlight that the walkout was continuing into the next day and has actually continued into the entire week. The entire week they walked out. More Activision Blizzard staff joined the walkout. So we have additional Activision Blizzard QA testers in Texas, Minnesota, and Blizzard's Irvine campus joined the action today, which was Tuesday. ABK Workers Alliance employee group has also said that all of Treyarch's central QA team has joined the walkout. So a bunch of QA teams across Activision and Blizzard also joined on the Tuesday. That would have been the day after, and it all continued for the entire week. Because there was a formal announcement of strike on Wednesday. This article went up on Thursday, but the actual announcement went up. The actual strike announcement was on the Wednesday. Activision Blizzard devs announced strike fund to support work stoppage. So, ABK Worker Alliance have asked supporters to donate to a strike fund to support an ongoing work stoppage over recently announced layoffs. Today, the ABK Workers Alliance announces the initiation of its strike. "We encourage our peers in the game industry to stand with us in creating lasting change." And on the GoFundMe, it says, "In the months since, we've seen Big Bobby and the board of directors protect abusers and only hold perpetrators accountable after the events were brought to light by outside media. We've seen Activision hire law firm Wilmer Hale, known for union busting, to disrupt and impede the improvement efforts of Activision Blizzard workers. We've seen Raven software workers lured by the promise of promotion only to be terminated shortly after relocation, on top of the already underappreciated and severely underpaid working conditions of ABK workers across the company. These and many other events have caused an alliance of Activision Blizzard employees to initiate a work stoppage until demands are met and worker representation is finally given a place within the company. ABK Worker Alliance will also be calling on employees across Activision Blizzard to sign union authorization cards. Woo! I didn't want to blow out the microphone, that sounded weird. Anyway, in a new massive step forward for unionization, so they are actually calling for a formal recognition of a union by having workers sign a union authorization, which basically says, I authorize the union to represent me for like employment terms and stuff like that, to talk directly to my employer rather than me talking directly to an employer. Collective action, we all agree that this body will represent us. Unsurprisingly, Activision were not happy about that. So, Activision Blizzard says active, transparent dialogue between leaders and employees better than unionization. No. No, it's not. I don't know why I didn't highlight anything like this, or possibly the highlights got deleted because that has been happening and I don't know why. Anyway, so basically, there's a lot of this just recaps what I just said, which is all the shit that happened this week, which is like the walkout from the QA team, being joined by a bunch of other QA teams, and then like a formal announcement of strike and submission for union authorization from different employees. So because of that, Brian Bulatau, I think that's how you say his name. I think what happened here is I deleted the wrong article, but anyway. So, Activision Blizzard's Chief Administrative Officer Brian Bulatau, formerly of the Trump administration, who was labeled as a bully, basically Mike Pompeo's bully, and not that he bullied Mike Pompeo, that Mike Pompeo brought him in specifically to bully other people. Sent out an email to employees basically saying, we respect your right to make your own decision about joining a union, but have you thought about what joining a union means? It means giving over your rights. You know, they might not represent you to as much as you might want them to. You could do a better job if you did it yourself, just you, a single person versus giant corporation. This is union busting 101. Basically, it's scaremongering to say that, you know, they mightn't represent you the right way. You might be volunteered or agreed to things that you don't necessarily agree to because the union did it for you, kind of thing. But this is versus you trying to get it all done by yourself. So it would be the same thing as like not calling the fire department and trying to put the fire out by yourself. You know, you might be more careful about things, you know, you might prioritize some things in the fire or whatever, but also you might just not do it really well and your whole house burns down. Versus the fire department, who are more concerned with putting out the fire rather than trying to save your PlayStation instead of your granny or something, something like that. I don't know where this metaphor is going. My point is, it is better to leave these things to people who are well-versed experts in these kind of things rather than trying to do it yourself. And the Activision Blizzard approach here is very much union busting, like by the books, by the numbers, textbook, whatever way you want to put it. This is how they do it. They appeal to like the fear that, you know, you're signing away your legal rights, which you're not really. Like, you can always opt out of the union at any time. Not necessarily be a good idea, but you know, there is a way out of it. Anyway, no, you've seen what happens. They've already seen, all of these employees have already seen what happens when they try to do it themselves. Activision Blizzard get away with everything. This is unionization is the only way to deal with this. But that wasn't the end of Activision Blizzard's problems, because they are facing some really bad shit in France. So, French Labour Court. Former Blizzard Versailles employees are still negotiating their redundancy terms after the branch closed last year, with Activision Blizzard still embedded in legal investigations related to the closure. So this is a bit of a look at how French labour laws work, and they are actually pretty strong. Labor laws are some of the strongest in the world. The Plan de Sauvegarde de l'Emploi, definitely said that wrong, PSE, which is basically a legal document which the company has to lay out that states why they're having to lay off people. So it's not necessarily for like one-off terminations or stuff like that. This is like they have had to agree like a wave of, I don't know, maybe there's a number allotted to it or percentage or something like that. But whatever it is, it aims at limiting the number of redundancies or preventing them altogether at a company struggling financially. So they need to specifically say why they're having to do this and give evidence for it and so on. For whatever reason, if the company wants to lay off a lot of people, it needs to be legally validated by a governmental body. And the issue here is that Blizzard has not been able to justify the financial need for shuttering Blizzard Versailles. They did something similar in 2019. They had a PSE in 2019, but it was invalidated by the tribunal, stating that Blizzard did not do enough actual planning to avoid this. So, the problem wasn't that you weren't making enough money. The problem was bad management. At the time, the company had justified the redundancies by saying that it needed to remain competitive, but this was despite record-breaking financial results. As we've already seen, Activision Blizzard make a shit ton of money. Having to fire people to remain competitive is absolute bullshit. In 2019, they were allowed to go ahead with the redundancies, but it had two consequences. Employees would automatically win if they went to a labor court to appeal their redundancy terms. Wow, get fucked. It's going to cost you even more. Any money you would have saved closing it, you've just lost by doing this. Anyway, and the company was to be under increased scrutiny for their next one, which is this one that they're going under. So, a member of CSE, who are the Comité Social et Économique, I don't know what that is. Anyway, it's an internal work council for Blizzard Versailles. They are quoted as saying, "If they were concerned about Blizzard's competitiveness, at some point you need to stop joking around. We generate billions in revenue between Activision, Blizzard, and King, with huge margins. So what was the point of doing a PSE during an economic and health crisis which would lead to people being jobless and struggling to find work? Why not wait? They wouldn't let go of it. I think it was just an excuse as they wouldn't be noticed in the middle of all the other companies who were laying staff off at the time." So yes, there were a lot of layoffs at the time. They thought they could slip this under and close a company that wasn't doing well enough for them. It was doing well, making the money, just not good enough. And, well, French court are like, that's not a good enough reason to close a company. So the CSE have challenged the legality of this particular PSE and challenged the necessity to close the Versailles branch for economic reasons. So basically, we were making enough money. There was no reason for you to do this. The investigation also unearthed tax avoidance that was going on for Activision. Game Cult, with a K, who were investigative body here, said the report shows that Activision Blizzard was hiding how profitable the Versailles office was, transferring some of the profit to its parent company in the Netherlands, and that's a double Dutch tax avoidance thing, and created a new office in London to transfer some of its IP rights there to benefit from tax rebates. Fuck's sake, Activision, do you not make enough fucking money that you need to pull this shit as well? So basically, they were siphoning off profits from Blizzard Versailles in order to make it look like Blizzard Versailles were not making a lot of money, whereas they were, because there wouldn't be money to siphon if they were making the money in the first place. So they've settled the tax issue to the tune of $179 million, which is there from the French tax authority. This particular PSE has already been partially invalidated. The French Labour Inspection Agency have said economic reasons did not justify all of the redundancies at Blizzard Versailles, so they could be in for some pretty bad shit over in France because of that. Don't fuck with French labour laws. Okay. Now, proper industry bullshit. So, big what the fuck, like right on Monday, first thing, PlayStation exec fired after paedophile sting claim. What? What? What the fuck? So there actually isn't a ton of news here. It's just that most of this article is just to say that Sony are aware of it and have fired him. That's basically it. So Sony has fired PlayStation Network Senior Vice President of Engineering George, I can't pronounce his name and I don't want to, after a live stream which appears to show him caught in a paedophile sting. What's-his-face was expecting to meet a 15-year-old for sex after exchanging messages on Hookup App Grindr. He was found in a kind of catch a predator type deal, you know, have a seat right over here kind of thing. So he was spotted with that. He was even wearing a fucking PlayStation t-shirt when it happened. This article also points out that he has held similar positions in other tech companies such as Adobe. So that's kind of it. We don't know much about it until, if and ever, it actually goes to court. We might hear more about it then, but I think because he has been fired, we probably won't see much of it in the game industry news. We might see it in the news in general. I guess you have to keep an eye out for it. Okay. Ubisoft is adding NFTs to its games. Of course it is. Of course Ubisoft were the first to pull this off. Why wouldn't they? They've fucking microtransaction the shit out of all of their games. Why wouldn't they hop on the NFT bandwagon? Anyway, Ubisoft Quartz, which is what their NFT platform is going to be called. The first platform for playable and energy efficient NFTs. Citation needed in AAA games. Launching this week in beta with PC version of Tom Clancy's something, it will enable players to acquire digits, which are collectible in-game vehicles, weapons, and pieces of equipment. Digits will be released as part of limited editions, each made up of a fixed number of cosmetic items. So, actually, I want to talk about this bit as well. Digits are a new way to experience cosmetic items, combining the fun of playing with AAA quality assets and the thrill of owning NFTs. The thrill of ownership. God, I love owning stuff. It's the best. It's my favorite thing to just own things. Each digit has its own serial number, which can be viewed by other players in-game and comes with a certificate of ownership. Players will be able to sell digits on third-party platforms outside of blah, 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 blah. Basically, they're not necessarily unique. They've just been giving a unique number, a unique serial number. Not unlike dollar bills. Dollar bills have serial numbers. Are they necessarily more valuable because of it? No. Like, it's like the first dollar owned by such and such, or the first dollar earned by such and such, I guess. Or this dollar was used to hoover up cocaine and subsequently killed a famous person. Maybe that might actually be valuable. But it's not valuable inherent just because it's a dollar. Anyway, I forget what I actually wanted to say now for the rest of this. I don't know. It's like, it's not materially different to DLC or microtransactions or something like that. Like, you just bought a costume. The only difference here is that you could sell it on to somebody else if you wanted to, for whatever reason, outside of the Ubisoft marketplace. Anyone who has dealt with like Team Fortress hats or Steam Marketplace items and stuff like that, it's similar to something like that, except you can do it outside of Steam. You know, you could do it through a third party. It's just as stupid as that. And it seems like everybody felt it was really stupid because Ubisoft's NFT announcement has been intensely disliked. This is despite YouTube removing the dislike button. There's still a way for you to find out how bad it is. So it is written here somewhere. It has a 96% dislike ratio for people who are still able to access the dislike numbers, or there are a couple of extensions that are still on Chrome, Firefox, and so on that you can unearth the actual number instead and still have access to a dislike button. So 96% is that's pretty bad. That seems like everybody fucking hated it. So it's out of 1,000 likes and 24,000 dislikes. Almost 150,000 people have watched this. That's not good. That's pretty bad. Ubisoft once again giving us something we didn't ask for. Ubisoft are always discovering new and innovative ways to be the most hateable company in gaming. I've never seen a game company so in love with greed. Maybe you can even feel a tad of shame in knowing that the court of public opinion is almost wholly against you. I don't know. But kind of in this article was somewhat more interesting because buried in the terms of use of digits, is basically how Ubisoft see the blockchain. Any transaction of digits you engage in will be conducted through the Tezos blockchain network, which is still a nascent technology that may involve risks and over which we have no control. Therefore, you are informed that Ubisoft has no ability to reverse or cancel transactions. Ubisoft has no liability to you or to any third party for any claims or damages that may arise as a result of any use of the blah 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 blah. Payments or transactions you engage in, including but not limited to any loss, damages, blah 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 blah. The Tezos blockchain network may be subject to specific weaknesses, which make them possibly targets for specific cybersecurity threats. Ubisoft has no liability in the risks implied by the use of this new technology, and you are solely responsible for secure storage of private keys for your crypto wallet. So good luck getting anything back if you deleted it. Basically, this is Ubisoft taking all of your money and having absolutely no responsibility towards you whatsoever. Does that sound good? Even the Steam Marketplace is better than that. Like, even microtransactions are better than that because they're tied to your account. You can still get them back, even if you accidentally delete them. This is worse. This is demonstrably worse than the system we currently have. And this is purely Ubisoft just cashing in. Because they are heavily in debt and need the money. Anyway. Standalone versions of Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy delisted ahead of PS5 Collections release. Where have we heard this before? Because GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, again, also delisted before their remasters were added to the library. So again, I did say that this whole Uncharted thing would show up again in industry bullshit, and this is why. Their delisting from the online marketplace coincides with Tuesday's announcement that their PS5 remasters will be released next month, so it sure seems like they were delisted because they want to get the remasters on instead. The Legacy of Thieves collection will hit PS5 on this date, priced at numbers. So $50, €50, 45 sterling for some reason, exchange rates, but not for euro for whatever reason. Anyway, we've asked Sony, Uncharted, Thieves and Lost Legacy digital bundle for PS4 will be $40. We've asked Sony why it chose to delist the less expensive standalone versions of the PS4 games, but by doing so, it has removed an avenue for players to upgrade to the PS5 versions cheaply. So they are preventing people from upgrading to the PS5 version cheap, because you could just buy the PS4 version of the original, which would be quite cheap now, because it's been out a good while, and then just pay the extra tenner or whatever to get it upgraded. No. Fuck you. We're not going to let you do it cheap. The upgrade offer isn't open to PlayStation Plus members who have claimed Uncharted 4 through the subscription service. So if you got Uncharted 4 through PS Plus, fuck you. Also. So this is them delisting the cheap version, so that they can force you to buy the more expensive version. It's also preventing people from going back and comparing the original version with the remastered version to see if it has actually gotten better. Again, game preservation takes another hit because money. And Sony are really starting to be doing this shit more and more. And it's quite disappointing. Nintendo loses case over eShop pre-order cancellation. So this is in Germany, of course. This has been an issue in that being able to cancel pre-orders and such has been a bit of a bone of contention in Europe for Nintendo for a while, because their policy isn't great. You can only cancel the pre-order within 7 days of its going live of its release. So a week prior to the game being released, you can then cancel the pre-order. You cannot do it at any other stage prior to that. So in the case, the Federation of German Consumer Organizations successfully argued that the refund policy that only lets customers cancel pre-orders up to 7 days before a title's release is unfair because a customer has no way to test the game before it launches. Yes, correct. You should be able to get refunds. The issue here is that when you pre-order a game, you pay for it. You don't pay for it when the game releases, you pay for it when you make the pre-order. That's a problem because you can't get a refund after that. So what they're basically saying is that is anti-consumer and you need to change it. They have not specified how to change it, and Nintendo have not suggested how, or if they are going to bother changing it. They may just say you can't pre-order in Germany, and that'll be the end of it. Who knows? They may or may not change anything. This may go to appeal and so on, but it is an interesting wrinkle to the eShop, which is not great in the first place, but its pre-order policy is also not great. And they're not the only people who do this. Sony also have a pay when you pre-order kind of thing. And I know why. Like, the reason why they do it is that when they want to get out the money when the game goes live, there could be legitimate reasons that the funds mightn't be there, like the credit card had been cancelled in the meantime, had been lost, and maybe you have to get a new one and you never updated your pre-order, and I don't think there's actually a way to update your pre-order and so on. The funds mightn't be there in your PayPal account. You may have used them to buy something else and you haven't topped up the wallet and so on, or maybe you just never intended to do it in the first place. But for whatever reason, the easier way to do it is to just get them to pay for it off the bat, but then how do you get a refund out of that? Anyway, we're gonna finish off with some dumb stuff. So the Epic Game Store finally has a shopping cart. Fucking 3 years after research and development, they finally discovered how to do a fucking basic part of online shopping. Congratulations, Epic Game Store. Ridiculous that it has taken this long to get a shopping cart, but even more ridiculous is Nintendo eShop still doesn't have one. Doesn't have a shopping cart. If you want to buy more than one thing on Nintendo eShop, you need to buy them all independently, separately. Getting an invoice for each one separately. Getting your credit card or debit card or PayPal account separately every time. Fuck's sake. It's just it is somewhat a good thing that they don't do sales very regularly. Because you're not typically buying a lot on the eShop, I guess. I wouldn't be anyway. Still, not great. And then last thing, the Elden Ring Potboy was the true star of the Game Awards. So this was the very end of the game, or near the end of the Game Awards. And here's Jeff fucking speed running a bunch of awards. But they had Pot Guy from the Elden Ring video previews and stuff come out. This animatronic thing on pedals. I assume. I hope there isn't actually somebody in the pot. Hopefully someone is just controlling it. He delivered a missive that it seems like he didn't want to give away, and it was just a message to say, hey, new Elden Ring trailer, and then they played it. But still, this is like really well made kind of little dude. The actual asset in the game is considerably bigger than this. It's like 5 times that size, but still pretty great. Pretty great having this little guy trundle across. Easily the highlight of the awards, because the awards were fucking terrible. Weren't awards in the first place, let's put it that way. 3.5 hours of advertisements and then this little dude. Anyway, that was the news for the 6th to the 12th of December 2021. Pretty heavy on the Game Awards, or the game trailers, or the game ads, or the Jeff Awards, etc. Lots of advertisements, very bloated. A lot of it could have been cut for time very easily. And the fact that the things they cut for time were the awards themselves kind of lets you know what they really think about the awards. Still, they did show off a lot of things, but I do think a lot of these games, a lot of these trailers could have done it themselves, made their own press releases or come out at a different time. Having this kind of glut all at once, I think, does a disservice to the vast majority of them. Like the bigger titles like Senua that we're watching there, Suicide Squad and so on, have big enough publishing arms and PR people that they're not going to be missed. They're going to be all over the place. But like smaller indie titles, yeah, we got on the Game Awards, but they're going to be missed basically in the cacophony of all of the other trailers and stories going on. So it's just not a great fit, and it really needs to be rethought what they're doing with it. Do they actually want to be an awards show, or do they want to be E3? And even E3 itself is fucking spaced out. They don't do all of them all at one fucking go. It's a couple of days of stuff, Anyway, that's Game Awards shit. Activision continues to be Activisioning all over the place. Hopefully employees will be able to get their union up and running, and it can actually be a decent force for change for all of them. And hopefully that will also, you know, bleed over to the industry at large. You know, there very much needs to be an advocate that can stand against shareholders and, you know, the C-suite and suits, etc. Game releases, Wytchwood. To be honest, I thought that wasn't coming out till next year, so I was a little surprised that it was released. Endwalker, I am hype for Endwalker, it's just I am years from reaching that content. I'm so far away. What else was there? Heavenly Bodies I'll be having a look at in one of my games, I guess Games of December video, if I ever get around to it. I have straight up forgotten what the second game was. Phoenix Point, that's what it was. I still haven't fucking finished XCOM, because I played it on console, and the controls, a controller for XCOM is not the way to go. You need a mouse. You need a mouse and keyboard, and I don't have a mouse and keyboard that I can use independently from my PC. I could just play it on PC, sure, but I'm not doing this shit on PC. Anyway, moving on. I won't go into too more stuff about this. This video is going on long enough as it is, and I have guests, and I should probably go talk to them. Anyway, let me know what you thought about this video. Elsewhere on the channel, Alan Wake, I did not get a part out last week. Just did not have the time for it, so part 5 is still up and coming, on the way. Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, I did a small video preview for that. That's also up on the channel. A couple of videos are making their way out this week. There'll be this news video. There'll be Chicory, A Colorful Tale. I'll be looking at a little bit of that. It's honestly a strong contender for my game of the year. I had a lot of fun playing that game. It's really, really good. And then hopefully Alan Wake Part 5 will be out on Friday. Coming up in the weeks ahead, then we'll be looking at Overboard, which is a reverse whodunit where you are the murderer and you are trying to get away with murder. You need to, you know, cover all your steps, collect all of the evidence if there is any, or manipulate people into taking the fall for you, and that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. And then I'll also be looking at Metroid Dread, finally getting around to it, and probably dreading my time with it, because stalker type enemies are not fun for me. Anyway, we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I will see you next time.